Welcome to our Yarn Shop Day Meet the Designer chat. You are joining us for the first one of the day. In this video, we are talking to Helen Free of Rainbow Valley. Before we get started with the chat, I'd just like to say welcome to everybody watching. Just a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. Please, can you mute yourselves so that the only people with sound are myself and Helen, who will be answering the questions. And just to let you know that today's call is being recorded for use on YouTube later. Okay, so welcome Helen of Rainbow Valley. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. It's only other people, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is indeed. So let's get started. Can you let us know roughly how long ago you learnt to knit and crochet, what led you to knitting and crochet and what it means to you?
I learnt when I was a child, about 7, which is only a couple of years ago, really. My dad taught me. It wasn't so much one of those things you got led to. It was a case of you got brought up doing it. You know, you just automatically fell into it. My sisters both can, and mind you, my sisters can both cook and I can't. So, but that's another story. So it was just a case of your parents taught you everything that they knew. It wasn't getting led into it. It was just a natural progression.
Fair enough.
But, I don't like knitting very much. I can do it, but I don't. But crochet is just, it's just something about it that it's just, I love doing it.
Definitely a passion then. So why did you choose designing as a profession?
I didn't. It kind of chose me. I started, when I bought my house, I didn't have a lot of money. I started making bits and pieces for people, and then I started making bespoke bits and pieces for people. And it just sort of progressed from there. I never really thought of it as designing because I was just making stuff up as I went along. I still don't consider that designing, really. As far as I'm concerned, you're not really a designer until you can recreate what you've made. You are an artist, and I'm not belittling any of that, but a designer needs to be able to write down what they do and share it with other people.
That's a very good summary of what designing means, really, isn't it? So do you only ever make your own designs, or do you actually make crochet items from other people's patterns as well?
I occasionally do stuff from other people, but not very often. It has to be something that really takes my fancy, or it's something that I end up doing because a few of my students want to do it, so I need to learn how to do it so as I can teach them. Like the Shepier's Cal at the moment, I've got 7 of them wanting to do it, and they're all at various stages with learning to crochet, so they all need some help, and I can't help them make it if I haven't made it first to understand what they're asking. But occasionally I will see something that just shouts at me and I have to have a go.
Yeah, I know that feeling very well. So, okay, where does your design process usually start, and what inspires your designs?
Everything. It's not one thing. Sometimes you see something and you think that would look amazing crocheted. Other times people ask you to make something, so you have to have a bit of a ponder and work out how to do it. And other times you see an amazing ball of yarn that is just shouting to be bought, and you take it home and you wait for it to tell you what it wants to be.
Yeah, and I understand you actually have a lovely yarn petting bowl.
I do, and I've got it ready for you. As I knew.
So for those who don't know, a yarn petting bowl is a pretty bowl with all of those skeins and balls and hanks of yarn that scream at you to buy them. Describe your petting bowl for us.
This is a handmade bowl from a local artist. It's a nice shape. It's got a rainbow rim, and it's full of amazing yarns.
And why do you call it the petting bowl?
Because you put it in a place so that every time you walk past it, you can stroke the yarn. We have pure silk. We have baby alpaca. We have more silk. You might notice a theme here, more silk. Silk packer.
A definite theme. Silk and alpaca.
Yes, it's silk and alpaca is just so gorgeous to work with. It just slides through your fingers, and it's immensely strokeable. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of other things in here. Oh, look, more silk.
Well, I think you've already answered my next question, which was going to be, what's your favourite yarn or fibres to work with?
Not necessarily silk, but I do like natural fibres. Acrylics and things have their place, and I do a lot of toys and things for children. So those are machine washable, they're cheap, and it doesn't really matter if they take them outside, get them filthy dirty and ruin them, which you wouldn't want them to do if you've made them a toy out of silk. But when it comes to making nice stuff, scarves and shawls and wearables for adults, it's nice to have some decent yarn. This actually, let me get the bigger one. This actually is hemp. Now it's really stiff and scratchy, but each time you wear it and wash it, it softens up, and it does feel really nice after a few washes. Still got the hemp smell though. That takes a little bit longer to come out.
Yeah, I should imagine. So do you have a favourite colour scheme?
Well, you may have noticed that it's probably rainbows.
Not anything to do with the name of your business?
The business was named for the rainbows. It is in an old film, which isn't quite PC anymore. But yes, it did come from an old film. One of my favourite films, as I said, though, it's not quite PC at the moment. So it's probably best not to mention it.
Yeah, that's fair. How would you describe your design style?
Quirky. I don't tend to have a style as such. It changes. It varies in the moment. I see something and I think I want to make that, so I do, and it's not an actual style, although people do tend to know. They see a design and they know it's mine because it is a bit different.
Yeah, I'll admit to that. Certainly a few years back, of being over at my grand's house, flicking through Inside Crochet, which was one of her favourite magazines, from across the room, I'd go, oh, that's one of Helen's, and she'd go, is it? And sure enough, it was one of your designs, and she was amazed that I could actually point out what was one of your patterns from a distance. So yeah, you definitely have a style. because your work is easily recognisable.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Next question, when I find it on my sheet, what is your most popular design? So what pattern has been your most popular?
Well, I did some barefoot sandals for Inside Crochet back in 2011, and those were really popular and were my best-selling pattern for a long time, until I created the Secret Garden, and that sort of overtook everything. So that is now my best-selling pattern.
Tell us a little bit more about Secret Garden. What is it?
Right, it was a crochet along, and it was 6 different blocks, each done in 4 different colorways, so you ended up with 24 blocks. And we did 1 block a fortnight and then put them all together. The name partly came from the fact that it was flowers and butterflies and dragonflies, so it was garden themed. But the secret bit was because the last section, which I've continued doing with cals that I've done so far, is a secret, and I never tell people what it is until they actually get it. So it creates a bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna have to be completely honest on this one. So gonna have to fess up. How many whips, for those who don't know, whips are works in progress. How many whips do you have, and which one is the oldest? And tell us how old that whip is.
I don't know. That's the completely honest answer. I don't know. I would have to sit down and work it out and dig out my ottoman and the boxes behind me and go upstairs hunting in the cupboards, and there's a few.
Are we talking double figures or triple figures?
Definitely double, maybe into the triple, but maybe not. I'd say that there's somewhere between 20 and 50 probably.
I was going to say, can you remember which one the oldest one is, and how old is it?
The only one I can actually think of that may be an older one is a cardigan that I started for myself that didn't work. That's probably in the region of about 6 years. Although if I dug them all out and had a look at them, chances are I'd find stuff that was older.
Fair enough. What is your favourite technique, and which one would you like to try out or learn next?
Don't really have a favourite technique. I use double crochet a lot because it's really versatile. You can do things like short rows and thread painting and various other things to create amazing effects with the double crochet. Tapestry crochet is fun because you can get that uses double crochet, but it combines 2 or more colors to produce a picture. So that's quite fun to do. I'm not really one for sort of your basic granny squares. They have their place, but it's not something that I do a lot of unless I need them for a particular project. But I don't think I really have a favourite technique, unless maybe cables.
Why do you like cables so much?
They're interesting. Crocheted cables are different to doing knitted cables, so you don't need to worry about using a cable needle and things. They create patterns, and you don't always see the patterns until you finish them. Sometimes it looks a mess, and it's not until you've done a few rows that you can see the pattern appearing a few rows back. Lots of people swear when I mention the word cables. They're not the easiest thing to do, but once you've got the knack of them, they are quite fun.
Do you have a crochet bugbear?
When people call it knitting.
How does it make you feel when they go, "Are you knitting?"
You really want to just smack them around the face with a wet fish.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. So which other designers do you admire and why?
My favourite designers, and this goes back a while, are Sylvia Kosh and James Walters. I have most of their books. They were very innovative for their time. They started something called scrumbling, which is now known as freeform. I have quite a few of the Sylvia Kosh books with sweaters and things in, and I have made a few. But they were just like the Mary Quant of crochet. You know, they were new and fresh and interesting. And I don't think any of the modern designers come close to being as innovative as they were. Deirdre Ace does some amazing work. Her use of colour and the way she puts her stitches together to create what she does is amazing. And there's a Japanese lady known as Luna Heavenly who does the most exquisite stuff. Her stuff is tiny, it's minute, and it's just, you really need to look out for her because she does some really gorgeous stuff. She's got a Facebook page. She did some books. You want to have a look?
Oh yes, please.
The only problem is with these books, they're Japanese, so I can't read a word of them.
Wow, look how intricate those flowers are.
But the work is amazing. Let me just find you a picture. Here we go.
Oh, absolutely stunning.
But they're tiny. She uses something like a 0.6mm hook.
Wow, you need good eyesight for that.
You definitely would. And as much as I'd love to have a go at some of this, I'm not sure that some of mine is good enough for that anymore. Here we go. Those are earrings. So this gives you an idea of the size.
Oh, wow, very tiny.
Yes.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I don't know whether you can get the books over here. I talked to my friend who was living in Japan at the time, and she got them from Amazon Japan, and arranged for them to be sent over here for me. So
very good.
Yes, she doesn't live in Japan anymore, unfortunately, so I won't be able to do it again.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay, so moving on. Can you describe your workspace to us?
Well, some people would call it a mess. Most people would probably call it a mess. I just say I've got ideas lying around everywhere. It's part of my lounge. I've split my lounge into two because with sofas across the middle of it. So when I don't want to work, I can go sit on the sofas and the rest of it's behind me. But I do spend most of my time sitting in front of the computer crocheting, so that you can crochet and write down what you're doing at the same time. If I'm checking over what I've done, I do tend to print it off and go sit on the sofa and watch a telly instead. Yeah, so I have shelves over in that corner which have baskets on them with projects. sort of whips, but they're more projects on the go because I chop and change. There are about 10 of them around the place that I keep swapping back and forth between. I have baskets down behind me with yarn in and various other started projects. And you can see over there are some more projects that are ready to be worked on. And yeah, it's just yarn everywhere.
Yeah, that sounds like a typical crochet workspace, actually.
Yes.
Describe your stash, or how would you describe your stash?
I have a shop.
That's handy.
Right. So basically, as I own the shop, that's my stash.
So you describe it as for sale?
Yes, some of it.
Do you stock items that you don't want to let go of?
Frequently. I mean, I ordered some really nice Jacob's wool, and it's what they call a humbug, because Jacob's sheep are two different colours. They're like a piebald, so they've got brown fur and white, no, not fur, wool. And what they've done is they've taken some of the white and some of the brown and they've mixed it together. So they've mixed it together so as you've got a stripy yarn that's two-tone, and it's super chunky and it's really nice. And I bought that in, and yes, it's on the shop floor for sale, but I might end up making something with it before it actually sells.
Okay, so in the shop, what has been your most popular product?
Until lockdown, probably my crochet classes. I mean, I keep getting people in asking for classes, but I can't do them at the moment. But yeah, my crochet classes are really popular, and I'm getting people in all the time asking. I don't know whether lockdown has it created more interest in sort of traditional crafts like this, but I used to get people in all the time asking to learn to crochet anyway, and I ended up having to start a new class because I couldn't fit them all into the ones that I was running, which was quite good. Obviously, since lockdown, I can't do classes and workshops, so that's just not happening at the moment. On the yarn side, it's probably the budget yarns. People around here tend to do a lot of knitting and crochet for charity, and I sell quite a lot of the baby yarns and things where they've made baby clothes and then they give them to various places, so that goes quite well. But then you do get things like when I got the whorls in, I mean, those are just really pretty, so people just want to make something with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have a top shopping tip?
Oh, buy lots.
Are you allowed to say that?
Of course I am. Make sure that you buy enough to make your project. If you're not sure if you need 4 or 5 balls, go for the 5, because there's nothing worse than running out partway through and going back to get some and then finding there's none left, or it's a different die number or something like that, and it spoils what you've made. It's always best to have some left over than run out. And let's face it, leftover yarn can be used for so many things. You know, there's scrap blankets and things. You can do plenty of stuff with leftover yarn.
Back to designer question. Do you have any tips for anybody who is thinking about becoming a crochet designer?
My first thought would be, don't do it. But it's, I said, it's not one of those things that you really choose whether you do or not. It chooses you. You need to make sure that you understand how to read and write patterns. You need to make other people's patterns so that you understand the way that it works. And you need to get your products, when you've made something and written the pattern, it's important to get it tested. There are far too many patterns out there that are just rubbish because there's too many mistakes in them. And people get so upset when they bought a pattern and there's a mistake in it. Yeah, if it's a free one, it's not so bad. But if it's one that you've spent a lot of money on, you don't want mistakes in it.
Absolutely. And finally, have you got anything in the pipeline?
I've got a couple of cals on the go. The one that I'm in the middle of doing is called Treasure Island. It's going to be a little bit different to some of the others. It's still going to be a blanket with your 24 squares, but it is going to be a little bit different to the others in the way that it's done. So that could be quite interesting. And then I want to go back to Secret Garden type one, and I'm looking at a Wonderland one. So sort of Alice themed.
Sounds exciting. Do you have a timeline for these?
No. Treasure Island, I'm hoping that it will be done ready to start sort of for the spring. But since taking over the, since opening the shop, I don't have as much time to design and crochet as I did. So the design side of stuff is a bit slower. Lockdown's coming useful because it means that I've got a little bit more time to crochet and I don't have to be at the shop so much. But in saying that, the last one I spent a lot of it gardening. So never been a gardener before, so that was a steep learning curve. However, it does mean I'm going to have lots of flowers to be able to copy to crochet. So it is a means to an end, I'm just looking here, I have 2 shawls there that are part done. I have a Christmas tree skirt there that's part done, but I'm not happy with it, so it won't be done for this Christmas. There's Treasure Islands up there. Oh, and I've got an idea for a cardigan with cables.
Sounds like something to look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning. That's all of our questions.
Yes. Would they like to meet Fluffy Puppy before we go?
Oh yes, let's meet Fluffy Puppy. Fluffy Puppy is quite infamous. Helen does share pictures and stories of Fluffy Puppy on her Instagram quite regularly.
Yes, she is.
And she's actually been really good. She's usually wanting to get on our Zoom calls, isn't she? She
is. As soon as she hears me talking on a Zoom call, she wants to get up and get some attention. But she's sniffing around because she can smell the fact that I've got treats on the desk in case she started to be a pain in the butt.
Oh, bless her. I think she deserves one. She's been very good. Well, thank you very much, Helen. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for sharing your insights with us. We'll be back again with Vicky Gorey of Vera and Bess, and we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.